starting with a fairly agreed upon definition of Christian nationalism as a social movement toward Christianity becoming the dominant social and cultural force in the United States, which would then become the exclusive influence of governance. My argument that Christian nationalism is bad for America is pretty simple. I claim it's a misdirection from the root cause of economic anxiety and instability for everyday citizens, which is actually the system of capitalism itself. As of right now, 62% of citizens self-identify as Christians and 87% of Congress members do. If they wanted cultural dominance, they have it. And yet people are still struggling in a housing market, job market that's not working for us. Food prices are skyrocketing, but Christian nationalists want us to be afraid of secularism and people who aren't their preferred kind of exact Christian, rather than a system that relies on exploiting the religious identification or lack thereof of all of us. And in the scope of westernized nations, the United States is like one of the highest rates of both Christian religiosity and economic inequality. And I don't blame Christianity for these issues, but it's clearly not the solution. And I don't mind what the majority of people's religious beliefs are, but the system of capitalism is still not working for any of them either. Christian nationalism is bad for America because it doesn't address any of this. And at the core of most Christian nationalist arguments is the idea that a shared societal morality can only be like unified if it's dictated by one divine ruler. And I would counter that with the idea that I think everyday Christians maintaining some of the same morals as myself, such as walking in love, caring for the poor, etc., are not following those morals because their religion tells them to. I think they maintain those morals because they see value in them, as evidenced by the thousands of Christian denominations that all argue over the correct interpretation of this supposed universal truth. And although I could argue that these same values are derived from the evolutionary drive innate within all of us to protect the species and especially the next generation, the young, I'm not actually concerned personally with whether Christians or anyone who's religious want to label the source of their morality as divinely inspired. That's fine. I care more about seeing the applications of these shared human values, and Christian nationalism does not showcase that at all. It is focused on a fear-based perspective of people who do not fall in line with the resulting conformity of everyone believing the same thing, which, by the way, is not a rational world to live in or to ever expect to exist in the first place. The beauty of the human spirit is that there will always be a plethora of different backgrounds, experiences, and even, beliefs. And I don't think that's ever going to change. And Christian nationalism doesn't account for any of that. So in that sense, it's not only bad for America because it's too focused on problems that don't actually mean anything productive in the material world, but it's also completely irrational. If Christian nationalists truly believed moral decay came from turning away from God, they might consider that the greed of corporate capitalism and these corporations and these billionaires is the most consistent violator of their proclaimed Christian ethics. And instead of confronting a system that thrives on debt, overwork, disconnection between us all, individualization, all of it, Christian nationalists would rather blame secularism or feminism or gay people or anyone who doesn't fit their mold of moral purity, because the movement of Christian nationalism relies on exclusionary principles against people who believe differently, which has time and time again proven to lead to the exclusionary distribution of resources, which is what really matters here. The whole concept tells the hardworking everyday people in this country that their enemies are people who have different religious or ideological beliefs, when it's really the economic design holding them and everyone else back from their own health and happiness. The social movement I would rather advocate for, which we can design together, is one focused on material economic justice for everyone, Christian or otherwise. I am focused on the shared humanity of everyone on this planet. I do not care who you are, what you believe, what you look like. I think you matter, and I think you deserve equal access to housing, food, shelter, and healthcare. While I'm here to argue that the social movement of Christian nationalism is bad for America, the individuals who identify as Christian nationalists, Andrew here included, are not my enemy. The system of capitalism is.
Guys, hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. My opponent tonight has an interesting strategy. though it's altogether predictable. Her premise, not unlike many other progressive harm reductionists, is that Christian nationalism or Christian populism leads to fascism or forms of fascism. Interestingly enough, when somebody says fascism, which is now a loaded word, it brings to mind ideas of things which are very dystopian, doesn't it? Brings to mind the idea of oppression by the state, for instance. Things like checkpoint IDs by the state and show us your papers, like what the left pushed during the lockdowns with the COVID passports and COVID travel papers. Even COVID work permits with the suggestion of not being able to travel without your papers being cleared by the almighty state. It brings images of forced garment wearing by the state in order to single out people who might push against state authority, like the secular leftists did with mask mandates. Gives the idea of the state shutting down your business or place of worship whenever they want, like the leftists did in their leftist states during COVID-19. It brings into your head the idea of people having food shortages and processing issues and restrictive medical care, like what the left demanded be imposed during COVID-19. Which is why it's interesting to me, leftists never want to talk about what a fascist state looks like, because it brings up memories of what these fucking lunatics did to us during COVID-19. Eerily similar, isn't it? Instead, they focus on total degeneracy restriction as being their pathway to have you believe fascism is right around the corner and the evil Christians are going to deliver it. In fact, this ideology of my opponent is so weak and Christian nationalism so easy to defend, all I have to do is use two words, us too. She says, we want the authority to decide the curriculum of what children read in public schools. Great, us too. She wants control over who gets married and who doesn't. Oh, us too. She wants to decide what the future looks like through legislation of laws which affect everybody. Us too. She wants to determine what behaviors are state protected and which are hateful. Oh, us too. She wants to reduce harm based around a particular worldview. Us too. She wants to have legislation around abortion using the state. Oh, fancy that. Us too. She thinks only her side can rule morally and set an agenda which benefits everyone. Hey, us too. She thinks her ethical system is superior and wants to impose it via legislative bodies. Hey, guess what? We want to do that too. Everything she wants authority for, to legislate for, in her worldview demands one thing, power. We also demand to have power and legislate for our agenda. And that's it. It's really simple, isn't it? We can also use two other words to describe this phenomenon from leftist lunatic fascist baiters. The two words are, oh no. You want to legislate there are only two genders. Oh no. You don't want males playing in female sports. Oh no. You don't want to stop mass migration? Oh, no. You want to ban abortion except in life-saving scenarios? Oh, my God. Oh, no. You want to ban porn? Oh, no. You will ban 18-year-old girls from sticking objects up their assholes online for money? Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Will you stop these pervy old men from fapping to these girls in their basement by banning the source? Oh, no. Oh, no. While my opponent attempts to vilify my worldview with these things, just note, these are their actual complaints. Not the dystopian things you would think they would try to push, but rather just righting the wrongs of current secular leftist policies. Yes, secular leftist policies. Yes, I'm sorry, under Christian nationalism, the days of mass degeneracy pushed by leftists will unfortunately be over. My God, those insane fascists. How will we ever get by without mothers across the USA having to beg their daughters to not get gangbanged by five guys online for money? I'm totally sure everyone's going to miss that. And that's all this ever is. It's freedom to do the most degenerate shit possible. They don't actually care about the, quote, dystopia because they never talk about it. Because there isn't one. And when there was, it was them imposing it. That's what's so funny. They only care about the right of a man to eat another man's ass and get monkeypox on their face because that's America and that's freedom. Well, I'm very sorry, but the adults are here now, and unfortunately, the party is over. I'm very sorry we have to ruin your fun time destroying everything we love and being a bunch of fucking scumbags, but we're going to have to, and there really isn't anything you can do about it ultimately because people don't want to live like this anymore. Christian nationalism is the proposition that Christians maintain moral majorities and dominance in culture. Because of that, your super fun degen time is unfortunately over. We have every bit as much right to rule from our worldview as you do yours, and there's nothing you can do about it anyway. You demanded a democracy, and that's what this looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Social movements where Christians are in dominant political and social power structures. I agree with her to the definition. She's worried about Western income inequality. Interestingly enough, she says we need to address millionaires and billionaires. Where was she addressing the millionaire, billionaire NGOs who just funded the No King's Day riots on the first round? Where was she when they funded the No King's Day protest most recently? Hundreds of NGOs backed by millionaires and billionaires. I got all of their names here. There's hundreds of them. Did she say a word about it? Probably not, because, well, that's justice. As long as the millionaires and billionaires are doing what they want, they don't give a shit. She says, well, there's thousands of flavors of Christianity. So what? There's thousands of flavors of secularism, too. She doesn't care if our morality is divine. Great, it is. Fear-based. She says we have a fear-based perspective. What is she doing here? She's telling all of you to be afraid because the Christian nationalists, evil Christian nationalists, aren't going to let you be communists. That's it. They're not. I believe when she says equity, social justice for all she's saying is that she's a tanky commie, probably, or something akin to a tanky commie, right? That's what they all are. It's irrational, she says, because of corporate greed. We just addressed that with millionaires and billionaires. The social movement that she wants is economic justice for everyone. What does that even mean? We never know. They're very vague about it. They live in the ambiguity of language. Equal access to housing, food, and healthcare. Well, what's the plan for that? She doesn't know. Right? They never know. They want to have the conversation about it. What conversation do you want to have about it? Can you give me a PowerPoint plan for how you're going to give equal access to housing, food, and healthcare to people? No. You just ignore how the world operates. Unfortunately, the adults are now in the room, and you're going to have to deal with it. And the idea of the social degenerate paradise that all of you dumbass leftists always are advocating for is now coming to a close. And that's my opening statement. I appreciate both of your. Yeah. So I'm happy for you to go first with your cross-examination, as I'm supposed to be defending Christian nationalism here, and then I can go with a cross-examination a little later in the debate if you would prefer, to be the most charitable I can possibly be.
Yeah, clearly that was incredibly charitable. That was fascinating. Thank you for that. That was a lot. It's interesting, like
okay, well then, you know what? Hang on, I'm sorry. Then fuck you. I won't be charitable, and we'll just get into the debate.
I was just playing. It's
no,
okay.
I'm just playing too.
You were calling
I'm
yourself an adult, and I'm an infant. That's fine.
And if you're going to act like one, I'll treat you like one. If you want to have an adult debate and you want to do a cross-examination, I'm here to do it. I didn't interrupt your opening statement.
I think it's interesting because there are a lot of things that you claimed that I said, which I didn't say at all. I didn't use
never
the word
claimed
fascism.
You said any of these things. You used fascism in your most
fascism.
Would you like the video where you just most recently said?
Well, but it wasn't in my opening statement.
It doesn't need to be in your opening statement for me to know your worldview inside and out. You recently released a video where you claimed that Christian nationalism leads to fascism. True or false?
I think that
True or
Christian
false?
nationalism
True or false? Start with that.
To the lack of awareness about economic inequality in this country, which does result in a fascist authoritarian personality.
So it leads to fascism?
Did I just say that? Yeah,
yes.
I think it leads to fascism, but it's not because.
So then, what did I get wrong?
Christian ethics lead to fascism.
Then what did
I think that when we use Christian nationalism as a social movement to distract everyone and claim all this moral panic and this moral outrage, I didn't bring up half the things that you talked about, and I hardly ever touch on a lot of those topics.
Do you realize that my job here is to defend my worldview? It doesn't matter to me that you don't bring up those arguments. What matters to me is how I defend my worldview. I'm explaining that, expressing that your worldview,
against an offense,
that your worldview led to all of these things. Your worldview led to all of these things. Your specific harm reductionist worldview. You want me to prove it? I'll prove it right now. Let's start with this. Abortion. Are you pro or against abortion? Pro-abortion, right?
Tit for tat like that. I think
you're not gonna tell us.
Christian nationalism bad for America? The answer is yes, because I don't think it's going to lead to any kind of utopia. You're talking about utopia too. I've heard you talk about on other platforms that the end of this 300 long end game is to have everyone believe the same thing in Christendom XYZ.
So,
and I think that that's not living in reality. The idea that everyone's
sorry about your feelings
thing is not even realistic or rational in the first place. I'm over here trying to communicate that there might be a system in which everyone can believe different things, but focusing on the fact that we can still all have an equal distribution of resources. I don't care what people believe behind
Okay,
the
you know what?
that.
That's totally fair. So let's start with this. In your future that you're advocating for, can 18-year-old girls stick things up their ass on OnlyFans for money?
That's a fascinating jump.
Can you ask? Can you answer my question?
You know what? I actually
can you answer my question?
I'm getting there.
You're never going to answer the question. You're just going to filibuster.
I know that you have a very serious problem with mass pornography and the exploitation that comes with it, and I actually do too.
Just waiting for the answer.
I don't think that
yes
the
or no would be
problem
fine.
of mass. I'm getting there. I thought this was us talking about.
If you
our
could
ideas.
just, it would be great if you would just actually answer the questions, like I'll do for you.
That there is such a high religiosity in this country, as evidenced by.
Are you going to outlaw 18-year-old girls sticking things on their ass on camera or not, lady? Answer the fucking question. Can you answer the question? Oh my God, it's going to be a filibuster debate. Whole debate's going to just be you filibustering, isn't it?
Feel your feelings.
Answer the question. Answer the question. Answer the question.
Hold on. All right.
Is it in your future? Are you going to outlaw 18-year-old girls sticking shit up their ass online so that men can fap to it for money or not?
Andrew,
answer the question.
This is
answer
such a redirection
the question.
Of what I've been trying to talk about.
Answer the question.
The problem with the mass pornography industry is not about whether or not 18-year-old girls are putting whatever content they want online.
Are you going to ban it or not?
The capitalist nature.
Are you going to ban it or not? Oh my God. Are you going to ban it or not? I want you. No, thank you. My God, you said the word no. Oh my God, I can't believe you were able to do that. Yes, that's the future. Thank you.
And I validate them.
Thank you. The thing is, you should validate them. I'm glad. You should just said no and spared us all your stupidity. No. Okay. So the thing is like, oh, I'm going to. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Wrong about what? You didn't.
If I'm the unilateral president and have all authority in the United States, I'm going to ban 18-year-old girls from stuffing shit up their ass so that old men can fap to it. Why am I wrong?
Why are you wrong for banning it?
Yeah.
I think that you're misdirecting the entire conversation toward a random offshoot argument about something that has nothing to do with.
Can you answer my question? It does go to the core root. It's talking about our ethical systems.
Okay, the ethical systems of individual liberty, is that what you're trying to get at?
Yes, so I'm saying to you, my ethical system, I follow Christian ethics. I believe rights are social. I believe rights are complete social constructs, totally socially constructed. So if this is the case and morality is subjective, I have as much right to rule from my worldview as you do from yours. If that's the case, all we can do is look at prescriptions for the future. If it's the case that the effects of the prescriptions that I want are better for society than yours, you should actually adopt my worldview. So tell me why I'm wrong for stopping 18-year-olds legislatively from sticking stuff up their asshole online for money. Why is that wrong for me to do?
Those are two completely separate conversations.
No, they're not.
Can you take deep breaths? I know you're getting emotional, but
you usually look like the one who's just lost. You don't even know what I'm saying.
You're talking about whether or not it is ethically wrong for someone to post content of whatever they want online. In the same breath, you're talking about two different ethical frameworks coming into play. And you're talking about—
You don't have an ethical framework.
The ethical framework is shared human values, which we can all collectively agree upon together. Your ethical framework—
So if we collectively agree that we can molest children, is that good?
We won't.
Is it good if we did?
That's insane.
Is it good if we did? No, okay. But it's a shared, then your shared ethical framework now makes no sense. I thought you just said as long as there's a collective of shared social frameworks, we come up with the ethical system.
This whole moral panic thing, and you're doing the slippery slope where it's like,
there's not is that a slippery slope or a direct question?
With your wonderful, perfect, amazing Christian ethics, does that mean that any premarital sex, like, you know, actually, can I just say something first of all?
You've been saying a lot.
Totally fascinating how absolutely obsessed with sexuality you are. Like that. That's
you're here to psychoanalyze me?
I
Are you
barely
going to
mentioned
psychoanalyze me,
sexuality. I
Freud?
talked about economic
Are
instability.
you going
I
to
talked about
psychoanalyze me,
people not
Freud?
getting the food and the shelter and the
Yeah,
clothing that they need.
that's
And you're
nice.
like, but what about OnlyFans?
That's
That's
nice.
a crazy take.
No, it's
that
not.
Has nothing to do with
it's
what
a
I was talking
comparable. What
about.
we're doing is we're trying to compare the effects of future ethical systems. The future ethical system that I have, where I ban all this degenerate
But it has
shit.
nothing to do.
It does, because I think your only complaint with my system is that I'm not going to let the gays eat each other's asses anymore. I think that that's literally your entire problem. Is I don't want people to stick the PP in the poo-poo.
My entire problem is that is your focus, and I don't think it matters as much as everyone getting enough food.
Oh, well, that's great. I'm glad they who's starving?
So
who's starving in the fattest country in the world, lady? Who?
It's so fascinating.
Who's starving in the fattest country in the world? Who?
I'm sorry, what?
This is the fattest country ever. Who's starving here? In fact, if you could tell me one person starving right now here in the United States, I'll go get him a food. I'll get him. I'll reach down a meal right now, right this second live.
That would be great, Andrew.
Tell me one.
At the end of the day, the economic inequality in this country is incredibly greater than a lot of other westernized nations. That's totally verifiable. You can do a
That's not what you just said. You just said that people don't have access to food, and they do have access to food.
They do not.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Got totally defunded or whatever.
Oh my God, you're not going to be able to go buy fucking gallons of cherry Coke and down it by the mass anymore with your SNAP food benefits. Oh my God. Oh no. Oh no.
How calloused are you?
That's not callous.
To the people who are struggling in this job market, in this housing market. I get it. I get that this is your stick.
Is that it? It's just moral. It's just moral outrage from you the entire time. How callous are you, Andrew? Where's your empathy, Andrew?
I have moral outrage.
Yeah, tell me where it is. Tell me where it is.
Entire basis.
Can you tell me? Can you tell me where it is? No, the entire basis for your platform is moral panicking and saying that people aren't getting enough food. They are. They are getting enough food. We're fatter than we've ever been. What are you talking about? On top of that, I would like for you to tell us if you have a proposition that's going to be more morally comparable going into the future than what I propose with Christian nationalism, and just told you all of the things that I'm going to ban. If you have a society that looks better than that one, tell me what it looks like. Go ahead.
A better society than the one we have now, which is essentially Christian nationalist. Congratulations on that front.
How is it Christian nationalist now?
Because they have the social and cultural dominance leading to that sort of governance.
Then how come porn isn't banned? Is that because that's Christian? What Christian nationalists want?
There's been extensive studies about the nature of a repressive society that bases everything on exploitation of, guess what? Capitalistic systems in order to push out as much porn as possible, because they don't care about who's being exploited and about what 18-year-old girls are online or about whether or not kids.
Neither do you. You just said you wouldn't ban it. You just said you wouldn't ban it. You don't care either.
I'm
you don't care either.
Framework right now. I'm working in your ethical framework.
Okay.
You can kind of keep up with that.
Okay, I'm trying.
So, according to your ethical
truly, your intellect is dizzying.
All of these things are totally, unacceptable, and I can agree with some of those points, right?
Yeah.
But the reason that we have such a huge industry of porn in this country is not because of secularism. It is because the system of capitalism, with no checks on the corporations that push out all of this porn, is able to just go unchecked. That's what it is. It's capitalism once again.
So it's not because a bunch of leftists. So it's not because a bunch of
trying to moralize something that is an economic system.
I just let you talk. I didn't interrupt. So let me ask you this, because this is really weird. I could have sworn that it was a bunch of leftists who were demanding that porn be unbanned under Larry Flint and the entirety of the case around him, and that it was part of women's sexual liberation and secular leftists who were pushing that women's bodies were allowed to now be freed. If they wanted to show them to everybody for the exchange of money, that was their business. I didn't know that had anything to do with Christian nationalism. Where was Christian nationalism saying that pornography was okay, that the exploitation of women was okay, that young girls would be allowed to undress on camera to lecherous old men? Can you show me any Christian nationalist movement which has ever made such a proposition, or one that does right now? Anywhere, ever?
First of all, I didn't blame Christian nationalism. Second of all, I am okay with the concept of people posting whatever they want online, as long as there is not an exploitative system behind it and there are checks to protect children, to protect workers, all of it. Okay. The concept of people doing whatever they want is great. But now you're getting into the
I don't think it's great.
The point of governance is in the first place.
I don't think it's great, though. I don't think that the concept
That's
of people.
Fine, so don't consume
Can
it.
people walk around naked?
What?
Yeah, they can do whatever they want.
That's what I'm asking you, like, sincerely, just for a basis
of, people can't walk around naked. No, that's right.
The point of governance. Like, what do you think the point of governance
is?
The
point of government or governance is to have an imposition of the ethical framework and system of the people's demands, generally, at least under a democracy.
Okay, I can kind of agree with that, like an administration of the collective will.
Under a democracy, yes. Other forms of government, right. That's not the case.
Totally fair. Totally fair. Okay. So your question was, what, can people walk around naked?
Yeah,
well,
and your
will says no.
Okay, but in your framework,
most areas,
but
I am totally okay with, like, closed off 18 plus nude beaches. Yeah,
whatever. Great. That's fantastic. But here's the thing, right? If the collective will changes, right? Because secular leftists say, it's because secular leftists say, you know what? There's not actually anything wrong with adult men and women walking around naked in the street, right? This is like some archaic Christian nonsense, right? So we want to change that so that people can walk around naked. In that case, if that were the case, let's say in 20 years, 30 years, something like this, I can show you states where it's the case now. Would that be something you would be in support of under your system?
First of all, the Christian ethical framework also shifts. So I think you're proving the evolution.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
The Orthodox Church hasn't changed in 2,000 years.
My baby. The expression of Christian ethics 100% has shifted over time.
Yeah, because a bunch of lunatic leftists have been infiltrating the churches for the last 40 years, saying things like, "Oh, LGBTQ is fine. Put rainbow flags up and shit like that."
Yeah.
Not because
maybe there's not a universal truth.
Not because Christians themselves. So you just said that you didn't mind in your opening statement. If I think that all laws are divine and that Christian ethics are divine, you had no problem with it. Now you have a problem with the universal truth. Is it a universal truth? Is it a universal truth that men can be women?
I don't have a moral problem.
Is that a universal truth?
I can still think it's completely irrational.
Yeah, is it a universal truth that men can be women? Is that universally true? I was wondering when
you would get to that.
Is that a universal truth?
What's the question?
Can men be women?
I think people can be whatever they want. Now, the real question you're asking,
got it.
And I will answer.
They can be whatever they want. This is what you're offering. All you're literally offering is degeneracy. That's it.
Yeah, I know. I love you can call whatever you don't like degeneracy. I know that's your thing. But what I'm talking about
what do you call degeneracy?
For the importance of I'm not advocating for the importance of people's consenting adults' sexual actions in the privacy of their own homes to matter when it comes to whether or not, again, Christian nationalism is bad for the country, not because I think Christianity or I think everyday Christians are at fault for everything wrong in the world, but it is the movement as a social movement is a complete distraction from all of the actual issues that we are not. Here's my question. I like sincerely, if the dominant social movement or like the dominant social and cultural force in this country were atheists, do you think the corporations would still act the same way, or would they probably promote more like atheist, whatever? Because you're talking about all of these ways that secular leftism has infiltrated everything, and I don't think that is necessarily because anyone out here is like, oh, we're trying to take away the rights of Christians to work. I think it's because corporations will do whatever they can to profit, period. And so the values system that I am promoting, the ethical framework that I am promoting,
can we back up real quick?
Over profit.
Wait a second. I'm actually confused here. You don't think that secular leftists have been trying to make it so that right-wingers can't work? Are you serious?
Can't work? What do you mean?
Yeah, that's what you just said.
What do you mean? I don't know what you mean.
Well, for instance, leftists are the ones under the secular framework who claimed for years that the ideology of the right was so dangerous that they needed to be deplatformed, depersoned, and debanked, not allowed to have any sort of voice in the mainstream at all. That was your secular framework. That was all secularists doing that, not Christian nationalists. Christian nationalists were the ones who said you can have a platform. They were the ones who were guarding your speech, not secularists, not secular atheist lunatics. They weren't doing that at all. They were deplatforming deplatforming everybody who was on the right, especially during COVID-19. Remember, there's misinformation. A lot of it wasn't misinformation. They deplatformed them anyway. Under Joe Biden, they did the same thing. The Biden administration went to Facebook and many of these other large tech corporations, and what did they do? They said that they wanted these people deplatformed. They wanted them removed. They wanted all of this removed for, quote, misinformation, when a lot of it wasn't even misinformation by Facebook's own admission. That wasn't Christians doing that or Christian nationalists doing that. When they do boycotts, when Christians do boycotts, they do product boycotts. I've not seen yet where Christians are specifically going after people. Clear up until Charlie Kirk was assassinated. It's the only time I've ever seen Christians say, you know what, if you're going to celebrate that on camera, then we'll inform your employer. It's always been leftists who've done that.
So again, I did not blame Christians or Christian nationalists for any of that. I would encourage you.
Then it's your fault. I'm blaming you guys for that.
Yeah, no, I know.
That's the point. I'm blaming you guys.
I'm telling you that the actual issue here, the people that you really need to be blaming are not secular leftists, whatever.
They're the ones demanding it.
But it's the corporation leaders who are the ones making it happen.
Yeah, well, let me ask you something. On your corporate YouTube channel, right, which is run by a gazillionaire corporation. Can I just ask you? Hang on, can I finish now? Can I finish now? Can I finish?
Totally.
So the thing is like, okay, so you on your gazillionaire-owned, bazillionaire corporate Google-owned, do no evil YouTube channel where you preach this communist bullshit. Did you make a single video about the hundreds of NGOs which funded No King's Day? Even one?
That's my point, Andrew. My point is that they will back whatever dominant social movement because they don't give a crap. Sorry.
That's leftists.
They don't care about what actual beliefs are.
That's
have beliefs.
Secular leftists.
Their only value is profit.
That's so secular. Listen, that's a secular leftist movement for the same things that you're talking about. Equity, egalitarianism, equality. That's what No King's Day was all about, right? It was this massive multi-million.
Don't care.
Yes, I agree that there's a profit. I agree that there's a profit motive. I'm asking who's actually the one utilizing it. It's not our side. It's your side that's always had the corporate donors. The corporate donors are always behind the gay rights. The corporate donors are always around your shit.
There's so much verifiable evidence of televangelists getting bukus of cash. That's an insane take. Both sides are equally okay.
No, they're not equally.
They are totally both funded.
No, listen.
They are totally
the distinction. The distinction between left and right. Yeah, okay. Here, I'll just give you one. Again, the last No King's Day. Would you like to go through the list of over 500 NGOs which assisted with the funding of that?
What about the actual verified all of the cash flowing into all of the right-wing commentators online?
From who?
From right-wing organizations.
From grassroots people who give them tons of money. Which actual organizations are you talking about? Now, if you're talking about like the AIPAC funds and when right-wing groups are getting money from from Israel and shit like that, totally agree. That needs to be cut off immediately. Under Christian nationalism, it would be. But the left, they're also getting tons of money from Islamic groups like CARE and others who are on the Palestinian side of the conflict being exploited just as much. And that's still not even the big corporate donor money, which, by the way, is influenced by academia. Most of the way that corporations utilize their think tanks in order for profit motivation or to understand profit motivations, they use what? Sociological studies. Academics are the ones who provide that for them, and the left is in charge of academia. Yeah, I don't think that the utopia that you're promising us here under your secular ethics, if that's the case, we see it right now, and it sucks. It sucks. Look, the idea, hang on, I'm almost done. The idea that we can't, for instance, implement bans on pornography, that we can't, for instance, say, okay, when it comes to marriage, it's between one man and one woman because we want to see the birth rates heightened. The fact that we want to eliminate mass migration into the nation, which is to the deficit of almost everybody, right? These are things that we're proposing. What even are the things we're proposing that you have a problem with here?
Okay, going back to everything you just said, I'm pretty sure all of it can be traced back to still the value ethics of profits over people, which I'm not arguing is Christian or secular, okay? I'm not arguing that it's any religious or otherwise, alignment there. But the profit over people is totally why, whatever you were saying about academia.
Then what's the argument against Christian nationalism?
The argument is that it is a distraction. As a social movement, it is
It's
keeping us all distracted.
That's
you
it?
and me both, babe.
That's it? It's just that it's a distraction?
You're out here so focused.
Mhm.
I'm not like you're out here so focused on two men having sex that you refuse to. I don't think I've ever seen any clips of you talking about, and people need to be able to eat, and people need to be able to be sheltered, and they're not including the 91% tax rate of the top tax bracket in this country into their equation. And they're saying, well, what's different now?
That's because I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news on the 91% tax argument from the left, but almost none of them paid it. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Almost none of them ever paid it. And you know why? Because they're the ones ultimately
seems incredibly convenient.
Well, the thing is like, isn't it? And this is why. It's because right now in government, and you're great. No, it's not because of capitalism. It's because inside of your great democracy, what's happened is this. In democracy, you can't tell people that they can't accept money to run for office. You can't tell them that they can't do that because it's democratic. You can do what you want. So here's what happens. These lawmakers in Capitol Hill, they don't actually make any laws. They're lawyers, but they don't make any laws. What happens is they have a think tank of lawyers, and those think tanks, they write all the laws, and then they hand them to their legislative body. The legislative body goes and makes a proposition. Then other think tanks take a look at it and go, okay, well, let's take a look at this, and dot an I, and cross the T. And most of the time, those think tanks have corporate donors, right? And you have corporate donors behind it. What system would you ever propose that would get rid of that? Having a top-tier marginal tax rate, which, by the way, it's a marginal tax rate. It's like you get above $1 million and then it goes up. You get above $1.5 million, it goes up above that. Get above $2 million, it goes up, right? Until you get to 91%. And by the way, that would be a drop in the bucket as far as, yeah, okay, you want to do the math? You want to do the math of what our GDP looks like. All right, our overwhelming GDP and what it would look like if you had a marginal tax rate on if you made over $4 million for today's adjusted currency. If you taxed it at 91%, it would be a drop in the bucket. It wouldn't address any of these issues. So even if you tax the rich at a marginal tax rate where you hit that margin and then you go past it, it still wouldn't address any of those issues. It's not enough money. It's not enough money. You know how much we spend on Social Security? How much we spend on Social Security? It's the largest spending that the United States does. It trumps the military. It's like, yeah, I don't think you have any idea what you're talking about when it comes to social safety nets and how much money you actually need here.
Well, it'd be a much better use of our money than the industrial military complex. I'll tell you that right now. But
nobody's disputing that.
Andrew, I totally appreciate. Yeah, exactly. I totally appreciate that you're at least talking about the economics of this country and what actually matters for the everyday people.
Talk about it all the time.
What their neighbors are doing.
I talk about, listen, the funny thing here is like, do you think these things aren't intertwined? OnlyFans is a multi-billion-dollar operation full of corporate donors, including the guy who owns it, who gives money to NGOs who influence Congress. Why do you pretend? Hang on. No, don't babe me. Don't babe me, honey. Listen, so that you understand and note that these are all intertwined. The social degeneracy is as much intertwined with the various ideas of these think tanks influencing government as economics are. The social fabric itself, though, the only thing that could ever stand up to any of the things you're talking about would be the family unit. That's it. The strong backbone of a central dynamic of a family unit. How do I know? Because it's the only thing that ever did. It's the only thing that ever did. And you scoff, right? You think that alternative family units and things like this are going to somehow help you stop the corporate oligarchy? They don't give a fuck. They can't wait for you to bring in more mass migrants so that they can exploit them. They don't give a shit. That's why Bernie Sanders said that mass migration was a thought process of the Koch brothers because they wanted to exploit cheap foreign labor. And that's exactly what they've done.
So your answer to all of this, the corporate greed and all of these exploitative practices and everything is a mom, a dad, and two kids. That's your answer for the economic inequality that people that you are listening to this right now.
Yeah.
They're struggling in a job market. They're struggling in a housing market. You think a better family unit is gonna help everyone do better. And
it's going to help everyone do better.
Continues to pay them less while expecting more for their rent.
Oh, the system. The system's doing that. Here's what's.
Hang
on. Do you want me? I thought you wanted me to answer. Oh, okay. Go on your diatribe. Come on. Tell me how you're going to fix it with communism.
I respect the viewers and the people who are listening to this a lot more than to say like, hey, actually, if you just have sex with this person, all of your problems will be okay. No, I respect our viewers a lot more than that. And I think that they deserve to band together and understand that collectively we can focus on more programs and social safety nets that will allow them.
You can't collectivize if you don't have shared social values, lady.
The shared social values is I've been laying them out this entire time.
No, we don't have the same. Humanity. We don't have the same shared social values.
We're more focused on.
How are you going to include me? I don't share your values. I don't want any of the things you want. I don't want any of the things you want.
You are so focused.
How are you supposed to include me?
Religious differences. You are so focused on everyone's religious differences that you refuse to operate from a perspective, from a starting point of shared humanity, and that we are all in this together.
Let's start.
Honestly, at the end of the day, what? That's the difference between you and me.
I see. So I'm supposed to have an arbitrary axiom that you made up, which is shared humanity, whatever the fuck that means, completely ambiguous, doesn't tell us any complexity of any moral system.
Is Christian nationalism bad?
My turn.
And I said yes.
My turn. So anyway, It's completely ambiguous. Completely ambiguous. Shared humanity means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. Hang on.
All the time.
Can I get 2 seconds?
Can I get 2 social constructs?
If that's the case, then if I want
saying rights are social constructs.
And if that's the case,
argue that I'm being ambiguous about social constructs.
Wait, I'm sorry. If you want shared humanity as being a starting axiom, I think you better fucking explain it. Yeah.
Okay.
I think you better do that. Yeah.
So shared humanity, what are all of the actual things that we all deal with? Not whether or not someone wants to have sex with this person or whatever, and all consenting adults, The actual shared values that we all have is, hey, I want to feel safe, I want to be fed, and I want to participate in a meaningful way in a society, aka
those aren't shared values we all have. You just made it all up.
But at the very least, it's a much more shared value system than whether or not there's a God, than whether or not homosexuality is a sin.
No,
100% more unifying. Most of the
world is much more unified under the idea of God than whatever crazy system you just proposed. For instance, there's 2.5 billion Christians, right? You know how many secularists there is when we compare it to Islam and then other religions. Religion is the dominant force for shared values, not secularism. That's one. And two, you're still being completely ambiguous. And when you gave me all these things which are shared values, they're not shared values. I don't share.
Totally are.
You can't collectivize with me because I don't want to. I don't want to.
Care. Oh, so you're saying you don't care about housing and food and shelter. Is that what you're saying?
I do. Here's the thing. It's funny, right? It's
because you just said that you don't share those values. That's exactly what you said.
Yeah. You're talking about a hierarchy of needs versus value structures. Like, do I need to drink water? Do I need to drink water? Yes.
Thank you for bringing up the hierarchy of needs, because you're focused 3 steps ahead about whether or not there's a God. Meanwhile, people's base pyramid needs are not met. And I said that those matter the most. Those matter. Food,
which ones?
Shelter, clothing,
Okay, let's get into shelter.
Matter the most, and you just said no.
Let's get into
those do not matter.
Let's get into shelter first. So let's start with this, right? So in your hierarchy of needs, are you aware that most homeless people suffer from significant mental illness, and that's why they're homeless?
That's an insane jump.
Okay,
how? That's your take?
Your entire premise here is that you want to talk about the hierarchy of needs and that people aren't getting access to food and shelter, and that all this is a distraction. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the mental illness and the drug addicts, and that's why they're homeless.
Mental illness?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about it.
Is a result of, guess what?
What?
All of these basic needs and securities, period. So you're flipping the script and you're saying that mental health leads to these things. No. These things lead to mental health.
You want to know what is the biggest common denominator that you will find between homeless, hang on. I'm glad we finally got here. Do you want to know what one of the biggest correlating factors is between homelessness and mental illness? Is single motherhood. And you will find that, and I can give you this. Hang on. And I can hang on. Stop. I'll let you talk if you let me talk, because now we're getting to the meat of things. So the thing is it's like this. Single motherhood is the biggest direct link. So when you ask me, you say, hey, Andrew, are you seriously trying to make the audience believe that having 2 parents in the home under some kind of economic stable conditions where they have a wholesome family is actually going to be helpful for their economic future? You just conceded that it would, lady.
I made no such concession. Again, I reverse it and I blame the system
Oh.
for the fact that single mothers cannot get their basic needs met, period.
Oh, it's single mothers can't get their basic needs met.
We're out here villainizing them instead of some Christian ethics you are. I at least have a lot of respect for the Christians.
They can't get their needs met.
The poor than whether or not two men are having sex, which again is clearly your top priority.
That's funny because we're not talking. Are we talking about that right now? Are we talking about the single motherhood epidemic, which leads to homelessness and drug addict and self-abuse and self-harm and all of the various correlates that we find with single motherhood, including homelessness? It seems to me like if you really wanted to address the homeless problem, going to the system, which already gives them tons of social welfare, gives them houses, and then they ruin the fucking house they're in, destroy it. Hang on. Calm down. They literally will destroy the houses that they're given. In fact, there's been experiments. YouTubers have gone out, found homeless people, gotten them houses, and watched them destroy it within a couple of weeks because they're junkies. The thing that's really funny about this is like, look, you want to really combat that? You want to really combat homelessness? Start with how home dynamics work to begin with and what happens when you have mommy and daddy and they try to teach their kids actual values. Do you know what the success rate of those children are when they have intact two-parent homes? Oh, man, it's wildly successful in comparison to the alternative. You're not addressing these issues. You're just asking the state for a fucking handout.
I'm not asking this. Yeah, it's very easy to go straight to, well, since this is built as a meritocracy, then people need to earn X, Y, and Z. I totally get that.
That's true.
Again,
they do.
Yes, you're right. The system is totally designed for the nuclear family unit to thrive more than anyone else. That's why I actually think you and I might agree. I don't want to put words in your mouth about the institution of marriage not really being the state's business, X, Y, Z, but there's somebody like and so yeah, the system is totally designed for the nuclear family unit to thrive above all else. I agree with that.
Good.
I'm seeing that as a problem.
How's that a problem?
What happens when there is abuse? Are you seriously blaming every single mother for her situation? Because that's kind of what it sounds like, and that she doesn't deserve the social safety nets that everyone deserves.
You know, it's really funny, right? Do you? I would if you were to propose to me, if you said, let's have an investigatory system where if a woman, for instance, was just being heavily promiscuous and screwing a lot of guys and got pregnant, too bad. Sucks for you, right? You made your choice in life. It was a terrible fucking choice that you made. Other people don't have to pay for your poor decision making, right? Then maybe I would have some agreement. But that's not what you're proposing here. What you're proposing is widening out social safety nets for single motherhood. And the thing that's really funny about that is that creates incentives for single motherhood. And you can see this over and over and over again with this court system stacked against men, for instance, when women go in and get divorces and they're awarded huge amounts of financial settlements. In fact, they own more homes now than men do, not because they bought them free and clear, but because they were awarded them in divorce settlements. It's complete. Yes, look it up right now. I'll bet you money right now on air. It's true. You want to make that bet?
The reality is,
do you want to make that bet? Yeah, I didn't think so.
I
didn't think so.
Your whole system of investigatory nature of single motherhood, it's such a scapegoat, and you're still blaming individual people.
You just told me that the nuclear family works better in this system, and that would do a lot to address the issue, and then at the same time, it's a scapegoat.
No, because the system is poorly designed in the first place. And it's
how? What should the system do instead? Give you whatever the fuck you want? What should it do?
No.
Well.
The reality is, what we have now is so based on an unequal distribution of power and therefore resources that we don't even have the starting base. Again, going back to that hierarchy of needs, of everyone's needs met. So going back to, is Christian nationalism bad for America? Yes, it is, because it's not focusing on the basic needs that are not being met nationwide.
It's not only trying to focus on uplifting every human being under a moral, philosophical, and legislative system that makes sense, but it's also attacking things which are attacking the social fabric, which is leading to this, like the normalcy, for instance, of degenerate sex work, which leads to drug addiction, leads to single motherhood, leads to single trafficking, single motherhood in the home, and the promiscuity, which has now become rampant in society, which leads to single motherhood in the home, is one of the conditionals for the very homeless situation that you're trying to address. And instead of trying to address that and say things like, look, perhaps if we instead have propaganda around the single mother, instead of single mothers, the propaganda for them, you address propaganda from the top down in the social fabric of society to say, look, marriage is actually what's good. Having two-parent households is actually what's good. It's going to create great stability for Junior. Your chances of being homeless are going to be way less. Your chances of having bad outcomes in life are going to be way less. We can address those things right this second. We don't need a utopian future to do it. Instead of doing that, you're like, just more safety nets, tax the rich. That's not helping anybody. What are you going to do legislatively here that's going to help anybody? What?
I think at the end of the day, you're still more focused. First of all, it is completely irrational to expect everyone to believe in the same thing. It's completely irrational to expect
You just told me we were supposed to
fall in line.
collectivize. You want to collectivize.
I think that at the end of the day, you're talking about making this Christian utopia, and it's completely irrational.
It's not a utopia. What's the utopia?
is.
What am I saying that's utopian? What?
That's like your 300-year plan is Christian.
Yeah, what am I saying right now
before.
legislatively that I would address, which is utopian? What?
I know that your take, so to summarize, your take is that the state needs to have more like, I don't want to say propaganda, but kind of propaganda about the nuclear family to convince everyone that was perfect.
Yeah. So
why didn't it work in the past? Oh, because secular leftism.
Did it work for this? Did it work for this? Did it work for this? Did propaganda work for that?
That's my point.
Did it work? Did it work?
It's not going to work because I actually
it did work for this. It did work for this.
I actually respect the everyday person, and I think that they can make choices for their own
backing
lives.
up,
And
backing
at the end
up.
of the day, it doesn't matter who you are.
So backing up, did propaganda work for smoking?
I let you talk this entire time.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You cut me off 4 times. What do you mean?
I said that Christian nationalism is bad for the United States. Actually, everyday people is probably good for the government, but it's bad for everyday people because it is completely moralizing and putting this entire moral attack on all of these things that are not the root issue. It is not a nuclear family that is going to save us. That has been tested and it failed. And again, you're talking about, there's this shift in dynamics. Christian morality has never been the same. It has never always stayed the same. It has always shifted.
This is really funny.
Where we're at.
So here's the thing about this that's so fucking hilarious to me. No, nuclear families didn't fail. What happened is there was a bunch of leftist secular propaganda, starting with the Secular Human Manifesto 1, by the way. I don't know if you've ever read the first one, but it was actually very dogmatic, wasn't it? It was very dogmatic, Human Manifesto 1. And they didn't even secularize it.
Because it was religious.
Well, here's the thing,
Unitarian.
though. Yeah, it was Unitarian. It was Unitarian, and the design of it,
so is more dogmatic.
No. It was Unitarian, specifically because they wanted to infiltrate churches and tell them this idea of having a nuclear family and a dad and a mom at home, it's archaic, it's stupid, it's foolish, like you're doing right now. You can't actually tell me why that's stupid. You can't tell me why it would actually be stupid for us tomorrow to have a massive... Hang on, stop. My turn, lady. It's my turn, lady. My turn, lady. Yes, it does. You're literally appealing to outliers. You're appealing to literal fucking outliers. Almost everybody in the world, everybody in the whole world has a mommy and has a daddy.
Secular leftism has this huge pool, and it's not so much an outlier anymore. So according to your argument,
now the pendulum's swinging. Now the pendulum's swinging, baby. So here's the thing that's so great. Here's the thing that's so great about this, right? And you still couldn't tell me. You could never tell me why it would be that if I, as a unilateral president dictator of the United States, said, okay, you know what? We're going to have mass propaganda about having a nuclear family, right? And the idea that that you're a single mom by choice, not because your husband died or because there was abuse or there was, drugs or something like this, but because you chose it because you were promiscuous and things like this. You're not getting handouts for that. Okay, what we are going to do is reward people in society who make these great contributions to it. They stay together. They stay really focused on society. That's the thing we're going to uplift. We're not going to punish these people, but from your view, just us not giving them free shit is a punishment. I'm not talking about giving free shit to people who have intact family units either. It's totally fair across the board. Except if you move society towards that, you're going to end up solving a bunch of these issues. You're going to end up solving the birth rate problem, huge issue that we have in the United States, you're going to end up solving a lot of the degeneracy issues, huge issues that we have. A lot of the corporate mega donors, if you have good, intact families, they create good, intact communities. That's the very thing, the social fabric, that could actually stand up to your oligarchy of millionaires and billionaires. Right now, you can't do it. How are you going to get a bunch of Christian ethicists to go walk hand in hand with a bunch of homosexual sodomites to go, really stick it to these billionaires? If the billionaires are going to assist either side in their worldview, that's what they're going to push. The only thing you have, the only thing you could ever count on is intact communities, which requires intact families. That's what it requires.
I bet those glasses make you see better.